The world is loud, but sometimes it's the quietest whispers that cut the deepest. In a small town where every face was familiar, where every secret was currency, two women sat in the corner of a cozy little cafe. Their voices were low, but their words carried like wind-blown embers, setting fire to reputations, burning down self-worth. "She lives like a failure," one of them murmured, stirring her coffee absent-mindedly. The other chuckled, shaking her head. She had so much potential, but look at her now, struggling, barely getting by. They spoke of you, and they weren't alone. Your name had become a story, one that strangers recited with knowing glances and quiet smirks. They talked about how you lived, about how your dreams had seemingly crumbled, about how you weren't what you once aspired to be. They whispered in supermarkets, in hair salons, at dinner tables. They dissected your life as if it were an unfinished novel, one they had the right to edit, rewrite, and judge. But what they didn't know, what they could never comprehend, was the storm inside you, the weight of words. It started subtly, the way people hesitated before asking how you were, the looks filled with forced sympathy, the unsolicited advice from those who had never walked a step in your shoes. You had tried to ignore it, tried to pretend the whispers didn't matter. But late at night, when the world quieted, their words found a home in your thoughts. Maybe they're right. Maybe I did fail. Maybe I'm not enough. Doubt wrapped its cold fingers around your throat, tightening with every whisper, every dismissive glance. But what the world failed to see, what those two women and everyone who echoed their words were blind to, was that you weren't finished. Not even close. The unseen battles. People see the surface, but they never see the fight beneath it. They didn't see the nights you spent awake, building, learning, planning. They didn't see the sacrifices, the resilience, the sheer force of what it took to keep going. They only saw what was easy to judge. And so they whispered, because it's easy to talk about someone else's struggle when you've never known what it feels like to be at war with yourself. But deep down, you knew something they didn't. Failure? That was never the end. It was fuel, the awakening. One day, you walked past them, the two women, their voices lowered as you approached, but you felt their words like daggers in the air. "Still the same?" one of them muttered. And that was the moment you decided, not to prove them wrong, not to silence their whispers, but to rise, because you weren't living for them. You never were. And as you walked away, their voices faded, not because they stopped talking, but because finally you had stopped listening. The morning after that encounter, something inside you shifted. It wasn't anger. It wasn't sadness. It was something deeper, a quiet, burning resolve. You stood in front of the mirror, looking at your own reflection, really looking this time. For so long, you had seen yourself through the eyes of others, through their judgments, their whispers, their pity. But not today. Today, you saw the truth. You weren't a failure. You weren't someone to be pitied. You were in the middle of your story, not the end of it. And for the first time in a long time, you felt something powerful take root inside you. The certainty that you were meant for more. The breaking point. The whispers didn't stop. If anything, they grew louder. "She's still in the same place," they said. "Still struggling, still barely holding on." And for a moment, just a moment, you felt the weight of their words again. The way they tried to push you back into the shadows, into silence. But you weren't that person anymore. This time, you let the words fuel you instead of break you. Every whisper became a reason to push harder. Every doubt they cast on you became a challenge you accepted. So you worked, not in loud, dramatic ways, but in the quiet, relentless kind of way that turns ordinary people into legends. You stayed up late. You woke up early. You failed again and again. But this time, failure didn't feel like an ending. It felt like progress. Every setback was a lesson. Every struggle, a stepping stone. They saw the same version of you, the same outward appearance, the same struggles. But what they didn't see, what they could never see, was the fire inside you, growing stronger every single day. The transformation. Then something changed. It wasn't immediate. It wasn't sudden. But little by little, the world started to shift. Opportunities you once thought were out of reach started appearing. The doors that had once slammed shut in your face began to open. Just a crack. Just enough for you to push through. And you did. You stepped into the spaces they said weren't meant for you. You took chances. You risked everything. And slowly, the whispers changed. They weren't mocking anymore. They were curious. She's different now, they said. She's not the same person. But you already knew that, because you had fought for this version of yourself. You had built it, piece by piece, from the wreckage of their doubts. And now, as you walked past them once again, they fell silent. Not because they had nothing to say, but because they finally realized you weren't listening anymore. There comes a moment in every journey when the noise stops mattering. Not because the world suddenly grows kinder, but because you grow stronger. You had reached that moment. No longer did the whispers weigh you down. No longer did the opinions of two gossiping women or anyone else define you. But here's the thing about people who build their lives on judging others. They don't stop. And so the whispers continued. She got lucky. It won't last. She's just pretending. But now, their words had no place to land, because while they were busy talking, you had been busy transforming, the unveiling. And then one day, the world saw it. Not just the small changes, not just the quiet victories, but the full force of the person you had become. You weren't just surviving anymore. You were thriving. And suddenly, the same people who had once mocked you, who had whispered behind your back, were the ones leaning in, trying to understand. How did she do it? When did she change? They were asking the wrong questions. Because it wasn't about one moment, one breakthrough, or one stroke of luck. It was about every moment they hadn't seen. The lonely nights, the silent battles, the relentless pursuit of something greater. It was about choosing every single day to rise, no matter who was watching. The final silence. The two women still sat in that cafe, still stirring their coffee, still talking. But this time, their words were different. I heard she's doing well now. I never thought she had it in her. They said it like they had always known, like they had believed in you from the start. But you knew better. And the beauty of it, you no longer needed their approval, because the person you had become, the strength you had built, was never for them. It was for you. And so, you walked past them one last time, not with anger, not with resentment, but with the quiet, unshakable confidence of someone who had already won. And this time, when they whispered, you didn't even hear it.